interview with the Vocero Hispano. Former Grand Rapids Public Schools board member Kristian Grant is here with us today, and she is now here as a state representative representing the District 82nd. She will be speaking about her background, what she is going to kind of focus on in this upcoming year or the next couple of years that she has, and speak about the area that she's currently representing as well. We are so excited to have you here. We didn't have a chance to have you before elections, but we're super excited to have you here now.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we just wanted to get to know you a little bit. We weren't able to have you here before the elections, but I think it's important for the community to know who is representing them, and I just wanted to touch base on that. I know that you grew up on the southeast side and you attended Grand Rapids Public Schools, so
yes.
How was your experience with all of that?
Yeah, so I actually started school in Christian schools, and then my parents moved me to GRPS in the 3rd grade. And so I have like a huge love for GRPS. I spent 6 years on the school board, and I didn't leave because I don't love it. I do. I left so that I can help at higher levels, really try to help support public education in our school districts.
Yeah, and we know that you recently finalized that term. So what are some of the accomplishments that you could say you kind of helped on accomplishing as a board member at GRPS?
So over 6 years, we've seen so many changes in the school districts. We still have a lot of work to do. I still say we. There's still a lot of work to be done, but some of the things that I'm most proud of was the establishment of the Promise Zone scholarship. So GRPS was really integral in making that happen, and I was serving as board chair during that time. So what the Promise Zone Scholarship is that any student that graduates in the city of Grand Rapids boundaries can receive a free associate's degree from GRCC. A lot of people still don't know about it. We have hundreds of kids in the program, but it started in COVID, so a lot of people still don't know about it. If your child is attending school within the city boundaries, and there are some stipulations, you have to be graduating from one of those high schools, but it's free, and they have that across the state. But what we did is we really studied what were the successes and the failures of other programs. And so we added supports. It's not just that you get free tuition, but we cover books. We cover any expenses and fees. And we also have like mentoring programs, tutoring, like all of these things to really help a student be successful, not just by saying like, we paid for class, now it's all on you, but what else do students, particularly students of color, need to succeed? Yeah,
and that's something I was going to mention is that GRPS is full of diverse students. There's many different students of different backgrounds, so I think that that's a great opportunity for them to, especially first generation students that don't really know their way to go seek higher education. I used to be one of them, so I know there's some struggles there that you don't really know where to go or who to look for, but I think that's a great opportunity, and that's a great accomplishment that you guys have done.
Yeah, so GRPS has over 70 countries represented in the population, and that's also something that I know about the 82nd district. Like this is the most diverse district in Kent County. We have so many different people, but the same needs, right? Like our needs are the same. We spend so much time separating, like, well, you're Hispanic and I'm Black, or like they're Puerto Rican, they're Mexican. But when we get down to it, those groups, especially I don't like using the word minority because there's nothing minor about the people in those groups, but those groups have the same needs, right? Like we need housing, we need quality education, we need access to good paying jobs, not just, any job. We need to be safe in our neighborhoods. Like those are things that we share and all people share and want. We need clean air, clean water, right? So I'm excited to look at what are the things that bring us together in this district that we can all get behind.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, the district that you're representing right now is the southeast side. Is there anything more to it, or is it just
So there is like a very small corner of Wyoming that I have. It's 32nd and Division area, so businesses, but also Godwin Heights High School. So I'm mainly GRPS, but I do have that high school in a little piece of Wyoming.
Okay, that's cool. You're reaching a little bit out there.
Yes.
I wanted to ask, is the experience of you growing up and you being a member at the GRPS, do you think that kind of made you or motivated you to run as state representative, or what was the reason behind that?
Yeah, so I will say it definitely motivated me to run for the school board. I felt like you can't truly serve people if you can't see yourself in the people that you're serving. So like when I was making decisions for the school board, I was a kid walking down those hallways, right? Like I remember walking in those hallways, eating those lunches, being taught by those teachers. I could see myself in the students that we were serving. And I feel the same way about state representative. I live directly in the middle of the district. I grew up in the district, my family is there, my friends are there. So when I'm making decisions, it's not, like I don't live on the fringe, like the farthest corner, the wealthiest corner. But during COVID, when people were complaining about gunshots and an increase in violence, and we could hear helicopters, police helicopters over the neighborhoods, I was living in the middle of that, and I was like, we have to do something different. I served as the school board president during COVID when we were making decisions, and we had to say, if we don't make the right decision, will kids die? Will teachers die? My daughter was one of those kids. My daughter was in GRPS. So I was looking at her, like while we're in virtual meetings, I'm looking at her and I'm watching her struggle with her learning, but I know that health-wise, we're keeping her safe by keeping her home. So I feel like if you're representing a group of people, you should be reflected in that. Every decision you make should impact you as much as it impacts the people.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned about during the pandemic. I know that was probably one of the most violent years that Grand Rapids has ever experienced, and I was keeping a close eye on that and noticed that most of it was happening in that area.
Absolutely.
So as state representative, how would you kind of help with that? I know it's been decreasing over the years, which is good, but there's always a continuous type of violence, not just there, but everywhere. So as a state rep, how would you kind of handle that?
Absolutely. Right now we're currently, and when I say we, I mean my team, my staff, we are forming an 82nd District Council, and it is a council of leaders who are working in key areas that affect members. So mental health, access to health care, education, environmental issues, but also people who are very close to the work when it deals with policing and crime. And so I think there are a few layers to this, but I won't pretend to know it all. We're bringing people together who have already been doing the work. But when we look at policy, first of all, I see two parts of it. So access to guns and ammunition. Like we saw kids, very young kids having access when adults couldn't find ammunition, you know, like there was a shortage. People who were registered gun holders, they had licenses, they wanted to go to the gun range. The gun range was like, you can only buy one box, that's all we have. But then I'm not even reading the news, I'm talking to friends and family, and they're like, there was a drive-by 2 blocks away and they found 60 shells on the ground. We're missing something. So when we talk about gun violence across communities, sometimes white communities experience, like, we look at them and we're talking about mass shootings and things like that, but communities of color, we're experiencing gun violence as well. And we don't often talk about gun control because we're like, well, no one came to our school and shot it up, or no one came to the mall and did a mass shooting. But if they're driving down your street and shooting 60 or 70 times, we still have to talk about gun control. How are they accessing these things? We have to get guns off the street. So that's one thing of it. But also that community was experiencing a level of violence from the people who were supposed to protect us, police officers. So we have to talk about not just training, absolutely training, but there has to be a level of accountability as well. So we can train officers, but if they do not still value a human life because of the color of someone's skin, what is the accountability? And who are the people who get to hold them accountable? Do they just go to a board full of other officers? Do taxpayers have to pay the burden? Okay, this was found to be wrong, so this family gets $1 million out of taxpayer money. Is that fair? What is real accountability? So those are things that I'm excited to talk about and find solutions for.
Okay, I think those are all interesting points. As you mentioned, the police can only do so much too with their training and all of that. So I feel like there definitely needs to be more of mental health training.
Yes.
I think that's something that I think it affected all of us, especially during the pandemic, after the aftermath of all of that. So those are
mental health is going to be huge. We cannot take it for granted. We can't punish people for mental health issues. And we're seeing, COVID just uncovered all the things that were already there and like exacerbated it. So mental health, we're seeing it with the uptick in people who are unhoused. We're seeing it in the uptick of people who are unemployed. And we can't just put those people to the side in the community because it affects everyone. So what are the resources and the programming that we have for them? But when they do come into contact with the police force, how are the police trained to work with them? And how are other people engaged who that's actually their role instead of automatically policing them?
Yeah, I think there's always that thing of de-escalation as well. So we've had Chief Winstrom from the Grand Rapids Police Department here previously, and he kind of spoke about that. So yeah, we're feeling hopeful, and more with how we have different representatives now that actually listen to the community and are kind of like figuring out what the issues are. I'm feeling very hopeful that there can be more positive changes in the future.
Yes, and another thing I'd like to add about mental health is on the statewide scene with Democrats being in control. It is very exciting because we're able to address what issues are important to us. And so there is a mental health committee now. There's never been one. So legislators from all over the state will be coming together on that committee, talking about solutions, but also putting dollars behind it. But they're going to be willing to look at some things that will be new and haven't been done before. So that's going to be really exciting.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like we're like on the positive path already. I think that's something that we all should just kind of be more aware about, the mental health illness. So that's good. Are there any other issues that you are wanting to focus on this year, either with housing or anything like that?
I will say that some of my key issues will all be really rallied around economic development. So when we talk about communities of color and the differences that we see, the gaps that we see, we can talk about all of the programming and who thinks what is best. But to me, it comes down to, does that family have the wealth and the resources to make their own decisions? We're constantly trying to make decisions for people that we see at a lower income level. But we need to be putting tools and resources into people's hands for them to lead and build their own lives. And that starts with economic freedom. And so I see it as economic development. And to me, that includes a couple of things. We need access to quality healthcare so that people, yes, healthcare, but I meant to say education, quality education, so that people can go into careers and pathways that will sustain their families. Also, of course, healthcare, right? Because you can't be living a healthy life if you don't have access to what you need to stay that way. We need thriving business districts. So on the southeast side, there are plenty of business districts. Many buildings are boarded up. They're abandoned. They're not in the best shape. that does have to do with the property owners, but it also has to do with, has the city been investing? Has the city shown that this is a place worthy for people and businesses to be? You will never see a wealthier area of city that doesn't have a strong business district, right? So that goes hand in hand. Also, how are we supporting the small businesses so that they can stay there and stay in business? Safety that we just talked about has a big part to do with that. And then housing. We are in an extreme housing shortage across the state. Grand Rapids and the surrounding areas, we need over 8,000 units of housing just for the people who are here to be housed, right? And so when we talk about housing, I hear a lot of people talk about affordable housing, and that's needed. That's absolutely needed. But what I want to make sure that we're not doing is saying, well, we're going to build neighborhoods of low-income housing and kind of box lower income families into a place where this is where you go, but you can never get out, right? There should be opportunities for families to have ownership, and we should be having mixed income level housing. So yes, today I'm going to speak from my own history. Today I might be a 16-year-old single mom. I had my daughter when I was 16, but if we do this right, and if the right opportunities are given to me, 18 years from now, I can be a state representative. Who's showing me that? What do my neighbors look like? Am I surrounded by hopelessness in these neighborhoods that we build, or am I surrounded by hope and possibility? And we have to be intentional when we're building neighborhoods and communities to provide that for people.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I feel like there's a lot of, as you mentioned for yourself, you're like an inspiration or a motivation for others that maybe they are stuck in a tight place right now, but they're feeling hopeful of the future for themselves. So
yeah, there's still possibility, and a lot of people don't. When I say economic development, they get like really bored. They look like I'm gonna go to sleep. But I think it's because we don't explain what economic development is. Economic development is building wealth and opportunities for the people in a community. That, to me, that is the work I want to do. 10 years from now, I want to look back and say Southeast Grand Rapids is so vibrant. There aren't people who are like, oh, the only house I could find was on Burton and Division, so like I'm there, but as soon as I have an opportunity, I'm leaving, I'm gone. I want people to be like, I'm never leaving because this is the best place to raise a family. It's diverse. People look like me, people who are successful. There are fun places for me to go to eat. My business is thriving because it's here. Like, I want to look back and hear that. My neighborhood school is like the best school that we're never gonna leave. That's how I want people to feel.
That's interesting, and I like that. Yeah, because we don't really think about it. Like you mentioned, economic development, we just think about businesses and financial stuff, but we don't really think about like the steps that it takes or the effects it has on communities.
Yeah, so. And it's layered. Like, we need all of the layers to be thriving, not because we just care about businesses or whatever, but because it affects the people, and right now, we have pockets, we have, areas of this district that are, wealthy and thriving, but the vast majority of us are not having the highest quality of life that we should have. And it's my goal to raise the quality of life, and I want to do that through economic development.
Okay. I thank you for that, because I know that it's difficult, especially being one of like the top leaders, I want to say, because it's a state rep level. It comes with a whole bunch of other things. So
yes.
I know it's probably a tough job, but we're feeling hopeful too. So
I'm excited, and I won't do it alone. I will. This council that I'm talking about, I'm invited city commissioners to the table, county commissioners to the table, and people who are already doing the work. That was a rule of mine when my staff invited people. I said, if they're not already working in Southeast Grand Rapids, if they haven't already showed that they care, this isn't the council for them. We'll work with them in other ways, but you have to have been working before, because I want to say, how can I help your work? What were the things that you weren't able to do before? Let's all work together to get them done.
Yeah. Just one last question. I know that you just started your term. This is going to be your first year. So what is something that the community could expect, or what could happen in 1 year?
So I think we're also figuring this out because it's been 40 years since we had a majority in this way. So we're also learning the possibilities. But a goal of mine is we will be seeing bills passed, right? We will be seeing bills passed that directly affect this district. I'm very excited about that in all of the areas that we've already discussed. I am a huge supporter of unions because when I look at what does a community of color need, and we talk about those stable and good paying jobs, unions are one of the biggest supporters of the middle class and building out the middle class. When we saw Republicans attack union labor, we saw the decline of the middle class. And in West Michigan, it's really hard for people of color to build wealth. If you look at all the statistics, they say West Michigan, especially Grand Rapids, is one of the worst places to be a Black person when it comes to money. You could go anywhere else and make more money. It trends in the same area for Latinos. But West Michigan is also a place where unions didn't have a lot of power. And so I think when we look at bills and policies, we'll see things that are supporting unions so that they can support middle class workers, people who are working to be middle class. They're protected, they're on a job, they can work safely. It's not just in construction. Construction and building is my background, but I see so many people who are just on their own and trying to fight for themselves. But when you have brothers and sisters that are beside you fighting together for good wages, good benefits, safe working environments, it will change what the power that the people in this district have. So you will see the Dems being very supportive of union bills and building them back after Republicans took some of their power. You'll see us supporting education. We also have a new housing policy committee. We haven't had that before. You'll see us investing in housing. So that would be really exciting. But outside of that, you will see us bringing dollars, and when I say us, I mean me, bringing dollars back to this district. So what specifically are things that this district needs? My team will be meeting with and talking to people, so we would love to hear what are the projects, what are the things that you need to see in this district. If it's at the state level, we'll work hard to bring dollars back. If not, we'll be working with those city and county partners for them to be doing the same.
Okay. I'm super excited to see what the future holds. I feel like you're well qualified for it.
Thank you.
I'm really excited to see you working, and I wish you the best on everything. Thank you so much for being here too.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for your time.
Yes. We don't have the current updated Facebook or contact information, but we will be posting it on the description of this interview once it is released. So once again, thank you so much for being here. And if you want to listen to or watch more interviews in English and Spanish, you can visit elvocerous.com or elvocero.net. It's the same link to our website. You can visit our Facebook page, El Vocero Hispano, and our YouTube page, El Vocero Hispano TV.